This is the Salomon S-Lab Ultra Glide, and its midsole uses a 4-piece construction that I'm not sure I completely understand, but it sure does look cool. It uses pressure point mapping to try and reduce fatigue on longer runs, and it's got a peba top layer to make it fast. But does all this make for a better shoe? It's time to pack up the lace garage and take the Salomon S-Lab Ultra Glide for a run. Yo, what's going on? My name is Kafuzi and I'm an elite runner who reviews running shoes here on YouTube. And today I want to talk to you guys about the Salomon S-Lab Ultra Glide. But before I give you my thoughts on this shoe, I do want to go over some disclosures. This is a pair of shoes that Salomon provided to me for the purpose of review, so I didn't have to pay for these shoes. However, nobody's paying me to make this video or to include their brand in this video, and no one's going to get a chance to preview any of my footage or my thoughts before you guys get a chance to see this video on YouTube. So with that disclosure out of the way, let's talk about the Salomon S-Lab Ultra Glide, and let's start with the specs. This is a 41mm stack height shoe with a 6mm drop, giving us 35mm of stack height in the forefoot. And that's actually a lot of stuff going on in this shoe. There's kind of a 4-piece construction. So up top, the layer that your foot is going to be touching is a peba top layer. It's using Salomon's Energy Foam Plus. It's the same foam that we've seen in some of the road racing shoes that Salomon makes, like the Salomon S-Lab Phantasm 2. And that top layer sits inside another layer of carrier foam. And a lot of times when there is kind of a 2-foam construction to a shoe, the outer layer or the carrier layer usually kind of creates a cup or a little bit of a bathtub for the drop-in to sit inside. And this one here with Salomon is a little bit different because it kind of has like an interlocking 2-piece construction. So instead of that little bathtub or that little cup for the top layer to sit in, it kind of cradles it a little bit more with these 2 interlocking layers, and then the peba layer sits inside of the cavity that's created by these 2 interlocking pieces. Now, these 2 interlocking pieces are made out of an EVA blend foam, and there's 2 major things going on in addition to the interlocking nature of the pieces. One is that each side of the carrier creates a giant sidewall on the side of the ankle that's going to help keep the ankle locked in and stabilize when you're on uneven terrain. And this is something that we've seen in Salomon shoes across both road and trail, the idea of stabilizing that ankle from too much lateral movement, whether we're looking at the Genesis or the GRX Defy, or on the roads, the S-Lab Spectre. But then when we look to the bottom of the shoe, we could see what Salomon is calling these relief spheres, which are kind of like extra large dimples on the bottom of the shoe that reach up towards your foot. And what these concavities are doing are creating little pressure points for your foot to push up against as your foot hits the ground. And the idea with that is that they're supposed to relieve pressure as they kind of push up into specifically calculated areas of the foot. And then we have this rubber Contagrip outsole that covers all of it while still showing you the reliefs or the concavities in that midsole structure. And then to top it all off on this Contagrip outsole, we've got 4mm lugs in a multi-directional chevron pattern so that you can maintain really good bite and grip whether you're going up or down. Now moving to the upper, we have a very comfortable tongue, almost like a full neoprene tongue, and we've got Salomon's lace system and a lace garage, which is the first time that I've really appreciated and enjoyed using the lace garage in a Salomon shoe. Now typically the reason why I don't like the lace garage, even though it is convenient and fast, is because I feel like it is constructed slightly awkwardly in terms of where you're supposed to put and tuck in all those laces in the tongue. And a lot of times the entry to the lace garage is kind of below the top layer of laces, so you have to pull everything up and then tuck it underneath, and it causes a lot of bunching to happen right at the joint at the top of the ankle and the bottom of your tibia. This time though, the laces come through underneath this top layer of this lace garage, and then you tuck everything inside. So it's very seamless, and I feel like this was a really small but very substantial change to increasing both the utility of the lace garage system and also the comfort in using it. It also just makes the shoe look a lot neater as well when it doesn't have to do the weird over-under thing that the lace garage typically does. Moving around to the heel cup, there is a small amount of padding as we go around through here. The upholsteries here is really nice and comfy, and the overall fit is very true to Salomon shoes, which for some people that's great. For me, that's kind of not as great. I feel like there's enough volume through most of the foot and there's plenty of space up at the front of the toes, but it always kind of cuts in a little bit on my pinky toe. And so I'm constantly kind of in between sizes when it comes to Salomon. Sometimes and most times I'm a size 9, but sometimes I prefer a size 9.5 in Salomon. And for this shoe, I feel like it's very true to Salomon sizing. So if you have experience in those shoes before, I'd say go with your normal Salomon trail shoe size. I went with my regular trail shoe size here, and I'm glad I did because after all, this is an S-Lab shoe. This is a race product, but because it is also designed for very long races and very long time on feet, if your foot swells a lot as you get late into your race, late into your day, and you have a lot of swelling right around that pinky toe, you may want to size up. Altogether, the total weight for the S-Lab Ultra Glide comes in at 300 grams or 10.5 ounces. Now that we've talked about what the shoe is like on paper, let's talk about what it's like on the trails. The Salomon S-Lab Ultra Glide is a very comfortable shoe from top to bottom. I'm very much enjoying the neoprene tongue that they've put on this shoe, and I also really appreciate the underfoot softness. When you first put the shoe on, it's very surprising just how soft and comfy that peba top layer is, and that comfort extends through the running experience as well. But it's not too mushy of an experience either, and I think that's that combo of the Energy Foam Plus top layer and the Energy Foam carrier level that sits underneath it. It allows for that top layer to feel nice and cushioned, but it also allows for it to behave in a bouncy way as well. So you've got a very lively trail running experience, and it's all complemented with a very grippy outsole. I had a chance to test this shoe in a variety of conditions, and I found that it did really well in both snow, sand, and on rocks. I found the shoe really enjoyable for power hiking up an incline and also for sprinting down a dirt or even paved road. It's a little bit different than a lot of other Salomon S-Lab shoes that I've tested in that I don't really feel like I'm dancing over the terrain so much in this shoe, and instead I feel like I'm more kind of barreling through everything that goes in my way. And I feel like a lot of that has to do with the really wide footprint that I feel like this has, especially considering that this is a Salomon shoe. Even though it's not the heaviest of shoes, it does feel like there's a lot of heft to it. It feels more like a pickup truck than it does a rally car. That being said, I didn't love the shoe quite as much when I was in very soft or very mushy stuff. Again, that's where I think some of the extra softness of that peba top layer and the width of the shoe really start to work a bit against it, in that there's just a lot more shoe to move through. It's not quite as nimble and agile as some of the other trail offerings, especially in the S-Lab category from Salomon. So I found this shoe worked best and made the most sense when I was working with firmer material underneath me. I just felt like having a little bit more firmness from the ground to push up against that peba top layer is when the shoe was working at its finest. Now, in terms of the long-term comfort of the shoe, I tested this shoe both as a trail running shoe and also as I was doing some traveling on a recent trip. So I had a lot of hours logged in the shoe, and I felt like the pressure point mapping in the relief spheres underneath, I'm not sure that they made a huge amount of difference. I feel like the peba is really doing a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of the long-term comfort of it, and I enjoyed being in this shoe for hours and hours at a time. I did have that issue with the pinching of my pinky toe that I typically find with a lot of Salomon shoes, but overall there was an ability to adjust the lace garage relatively quickly. So as my foot would swell over the course of the day, I was able to get a little bit of comfort and relief from it. And I think over time, this upper will start to mold a little bit to the shape of my foot. Now, some of you have asked me whether I was having any discomfort from the back of the heel over in the Achilles here, if there was any rubbing that happened. I didn't experience any of that. I found the whole thing to be very comfortable. The choice of materials that's in here are both soft and resilient, and so I felt like they held up well to the elements, but also were really comfortable for me to wear for long periods of time. Now let's wrap up the video by going over the buying guide, and we'll also talk about some alternatives you may want to consider. The Salomon S-Lab Ultra Glide is a fun, fast, and versatile trail shoe, great for long races or just long all-day adventures. It's more than capable of handling anything that I'm able to throw at it, and it was an absolute pleasure to have on feet. But frankly, I'm not sure that I'm skilled enough of a trail runner to really push this shoe to its limits. And so at its $250 price point, I feel like it's a little bit high for what someone like me would personally need. So here are some alternatives that I think could offer some viable competition. Now, I think the first shoe that we should probably take a look at, given that the S-Lab Ultra Glide is north of $250, is from Adidas Terrex, and this is the Agravic Speed Ultra. This is a shoe that I think is intended for a lot of the similar types of terrain that may be a little bit less technical, but may have some longer stretches of open running. The Agravic Speed Trail Ultra uses Light Strike Pro and energy rods, giving a road super shoe type of experience on the trail, or at least that's what it's trying to do. And I feel like its shorter lugs at 2.5 in the front and 3 millimeters in the back help indicate exactly what kinds of terrain this is intended to go over. And because they both utilize at least some peba in their midsole constructions, they're going to be better for firmer terrain and stuff where you want to go a little bit faster. I think the big difference between these two shoes is in the amount of lateral support. The Salomon S-Lab Ultra Glide does have those sidewalls over on the sides of each ankle. The Agravic Speed Ultra Trail does have a bit of a heel cup for your foot to sit in, but it's not as robust as the Salomon. And to get into the Terrex, you're looking at $220, so $30 cheaper than the Salomon. And then another shoe that I'd take a look at that I thought had a very similar reminiscent feel is from Hoka, and that is the Mafate Speed version 4. I feel like these shoes are designed for some of the same types of terrain and the same durations of running adventure. The Mafate Speed 4 has even deeper lugs at 5 millimeters and an even wider footprint, especially in the heel, than the S-Lab Ultra Glide. But I think I would use both of these shoes similarly, where I might encounter a variety of terrains and surfaces and levels of technicality, but want to be comfortable in whatever situation I might find myself in. Again, I think though that the way that I would decide between these two shoes is if you like those sidewalls, if you want that ankle support and you want something that comes up a little bit higher on the ankle in order to keep dust and debris out of your shoes, then I think I'd go with the S-Lab Ultra Glide. It does also have the benefit of that really nice peba top layer. The Mafate Speed 4 retails at $185, but because it has been around, there are certain colors that you can get on discount as low as $148 on the Hoka website directly. So a substantial amount of savings that could really push your decision one way or the other. So those are my thoughts on the S-Lab Ultra Glide. Let me know in the comments down below if you have any other questions, or better yet, stop by the live stream that I do Mondays and Thursdays over on the Kofuzi Run Club channel. I'd love to see you guys over there in the chat. That's all I have for today, everybody. Thanks so much for making it all the way to the end of this video. Hopefully you guys are staying safe out there on your runs, and I will see you in the next one.
Yo, what's going on?